And I started seeing those signs. But I kept thinking, he's got a good career. When he's sober, he's great. It's wonderful. I can change him.
Oh,
If I had a dime.
the old female. Oh God, it's the biggest mistake females make. I can change him.
Yeah.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Empathy is what separates human beings from the rest of the living creatures on planet Earth. That instinctual ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Learning to see with your heart and connect with what is unsaid. The difficulty resides in making the problems of others take precedent over your own. We get wrapped up in our lives for a short time, getting blinded to those in need. Little do we know that freedom and healing can be found in serving others. For a select few, they are ethnocentrically selfish, believing they are the center of the universe. Nothing can be said and nothing can be done to wake them from their self-centered slumber. We can only hope that the moment of realization is not at the cost of their souls. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment. You can ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new episodes, and now you can join. Follow us on all social media so you can find out exactly what we're up to. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome a dear friend, and that's Yvonne Elwood. We're going to discuss the suffering of a narcissist. I was going to make this episode all about me, but I figured we'll get into your story first, and then we'll do it from there. Thank you very much for coming in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Before we get into anything, I want to throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. I was just there, and they couldn't have treated me any better. So as police officers and podcasters, we don't trust anybody, but we do trust Toyota Hackensack. So go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. So Yvonne, each week we take a question from our audience. This one comes from Suntastic Bella. Okay. And it says, people close to you reveal your blind spots. So what are your blind spots? Now, we all have blind spots. We all have things that we miss in our daily life. And I rely on those people near me to sort of give me that little warning of things that I missed. So what are your blind spots?
I think probably, based on a discussion, maybe I'm a cynic. I'm not always taking things at face value. I trust people, but
you don't trust people.
But
you trust people, yet you don't trust people.
Right.
But that comes over time. You know, I believe that's a learned behavior. So the purest form of any human being is a small baby.
Yes.
Small baby trusts everybody.
Right.
Until they become jaded by life.
Right.
So I think that's a natural progression, especially going through some trauma. Would you agree with that?
I would think so. Yeah. I think that's exactly probably the root of where that came from.
It's almost like a self-defense mechanism.
Exactly.
So I rely on those people around me. I have this huge blind spot. I like to see the best in people. I like to see their potential. I like to see where I think they could be. Unfortunately, some people have less than honorable or ethical reasoning behind what they're doing. They'll use you.
Right.
Thankfully, I have a group of people around me that'll tell me, hey, dude, this is not a good relationship. Something's off here. Something's wrong here. And in the past, I would say, yeah, let me see how this will play out.
Right.
But I've learned to trust those people. And I've learned to trust my gut, because even though they're telling me something that I kind of already know in my gut, and we had this social media question last week. It's like, how much do you trust your gut? I've learned to trust my gut a lot more.
Yeah.
But my gut, coupled with those people around me who I trust, now I have something powerful. Now I have something concrete that I can grab onto.
Right.
So those blind spots, I rely on those people who are around me all the time to make me aware of those blind spots, because we can't see everything, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So Suntastic Bella, thank you for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. And while you're at it, go to 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley, New Jersey. Go see Gus over at Cubita Cafe. Tell him the Suffering Podcast sent you, and I guarantee you will have one of the best meals that you've ever had. His empanadas all handmade. He's a classically trained chef, and I've yet to have a bad meal at Cubita Cafe. So go to 234 Franklin Avenue, and again, tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. So Yvonne, so for those of you who are wondering who Yvonne Elwood is, you'll see posts every once in a while on my Instagram that you've invited me as a collaborator.
Yes.
And when I see a quote that you put up there that really hits home, really hits me in the heart, I gravitate towards it. And you had a great one that's written on your cup today that I want to point out, and I want you to read that for everybody.
Okay. So the cup, it was a quote that I saw that says, "It's not hate if it's the truth." And that really resonated with me because it seems like the current climate, it's everything. If you don't like this, then you're that. If you don't like this, then... And I don't think that's true.
I think people are afraid to hear the truth.
I think they are.
And when you call somebody out on their bullshit, it's a hard pill for somebody to swallow.
Absolutely.
You know, you think a certain way about yourself or what you're doing or what you believe in. And when somebody, again, it's pointing out that blind spot, getting back to the social media question.
Right.
You know, you become so ingrained in a way of thinking that you get that tunnel vision.
Right.
So your husband, Pat, and I got to throw out Pat because I got to embarrass the hell out of him. You know, as the first thing they teach us in the academy is don't get tunnel vision.
Right.
So that's your blind spots, right?
Right.
So you don't see the big picture. You don't see the totality of the circumstances that everybody likes to talk about. You're focused on one thing, even though all this negative stuff is coming at you on the side.
Right.
So I like that quote. I'm gonna have to steal. I may steal that quote. I steal all my quotes. I'm just gonna let you know.
It's on my story. Post it.
Yeah, I'll just repost it. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up? What was your house like?
So I grew up in a West Texas town called Lubbock in Texas.
Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly.
Yes.
Texas Tech University.
Yeah.
Go Red Raiders.
Yeah, that's
Guns up.
So for those of you who don't know who Buddy Holly is, I guarantee they know the song "The Day the Music Died," which is all about American Pie. That was the plane they were on when they crashed. Big day for Lubbock.
Big day for Lubbock.
Yeah.
And you know, Waylon Jennings is from Levelland, so not too far from there. And
Who lost his seat on that airplane on February 3rd,
That's right.
1959. I think it's 58 or 59.
Yep.
Waylon Jennings lost his seat on in a card game with Richie Valens, and the rest is history.
History. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so that's an interesting place, Texas.
It
And
is.
I actually got to go there very soon, and it's just such a wide expanse, freedom,
Yes.
you know. And then you move to New Jersey. You're like anti-freedom.
Well, I didn't come straight here. I actually came to New Jersey by way of Australia. I lived in Australia for about 5 years.
What, you got tired of the open space?
I needed something even more open, right?
Yeah, right. You know, you went from this to this. And you tired of having money too, probably. So what brought you to New Jersey?
So my husband before, Patrick, was a businessman. He was a university professor, but he also had an engineering company, and he was doing a lot of work in the East Coast of the U.S., and his partner said, why don't you move? So here we are.
So was it a little bit of a culture shock when you came to New Jersey?
New Jersey was yeah, it and sometimes it still is. But it's got some really great people, and it's got some beautiful places. So it is better than I thought it would be.
So I've traveled all around this country, and most places are pretty much the same. You know, they have a CVS on every corner. They got a McDonald's. They got whatever chain restaurant is in the other corner. But every once in a while, you go to those areas of the U.S. that are different.
Right.
Where was I? It was outside of Ithaca. You know, and my kids are very, very sheltered. And we're driving through, and there's like one gas station. And my son goes, well, what if you need gas? So I said, well, you got to plan ahead. This is what you got to do. And Texas, to me, is a lot like that.
Right.
You know, outside of the big cities anyway.
Right. Yeah. If you're traveling, you got to watch that gauge because you could be driving for a while.
So how old were you when you got married first time?
That would have been 27.
27. Okay, that's normal first marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was an engineer.
No,
No.
that's a different one.
Wait, hold on a second. So there's multiple.
I know. There's 3.
There's 3? Okay. Well, if
But,
you do
you
it
know,
again, then shame on you.
Third time lucky.
Third time.
I hit the jackpot with this one. So.
Okay, but you understand that you're out of chances.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I just want to
yeah.
let you know that. if this one doesn't work out, I'm going to say, hey, listen, call it quits.
I no longer have a future ex-husband. He's the keeper.
Well, you know what? Just with Pat out there, just tell him you're taking that whole death do us part very clearly and show him the hole.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you got to show him the hole. He accidentally died by getting hit in the head 3 times with a shovel. By the way, I have no foreknowledge of that, just in case that
It
happens.
was actually the iron from the Monopoly game.
Okay. It's like an episode of Clue.
That's it.
So tell me what this was your first husband who was traveling everywhere.
No. So my first husband was in the military. He was an Air Force guy.
Okay.
You know, we were talking earlier about things. He looked great on paper. He looked great on paper, but no, that's about as far as that went.
So what drew you to him initially?
Well, I met him through some friends, and you know, I grew up. My father was career Navy. My oldest brother career Air Force, and it's just kind of been a way of life that I grew up with.
That
And
military lifestyle is tough.
It
We
is.
just had a Navy SEAL in here, and it's not an easy life.
No, but you know, I was very blessed because it was at the end of my father's career when I came around. So I wasn't one of these kids that got dragged around to all different places. But I liked that lifestyle, and I always thought, okay, if I'm not going to be in the military, marrying somebody in the military is not such a bad idea. I mean, I didn't go looking for him for that, but when I found out, you know, he was captain and.
Well, you also got to think that I don't know your relationship with your father, but if your father was a good man, by default,
You would think.
you would think military men are good men.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but not so much.
Yeah, not so much.
So, tell me a little bit about the nature of the relationship, especially early on. You know, the honeymoon phase and stuff like that. Things,
It was really good. He was very charming. He was very intelligent. He was an academy grad, so he went to the Air Force Academy.
very nice.
And like I said, he looked really, really good on paper. He was working his way, trying to make major, and he was very charming. He was athletic. We would go, we would do things, we would hike, we would.
You had a lot of common
always-
interests, yeah.
Always going places, great conversations, sports, everything. So it was wonderful.
But eventually, throughout that type of relationship, you start seeing cracks.
Yes,
So there's always, in hindsight's always 20/20.
yes,
You see that first crack.
yes.
And, you know, you kind of figure, well, you know what, everybody's got their own thing, and everybody's, you know, nobody's perfect.
Right.
So what was the first crack you saw?
The first crack I saw was when no didn't mean no
With sex.
with sex.
Okay.
He tried to cross the line, and I kind of shut it down. And I think the phrase I used was, "You're entering a no-fly zone." And so he stopped until he figured out that I wasn't talking about my menstrual cycle.
Oh,
I was just
okay.
saying no.
Right.
And he went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, the whole, it's a sticky situation, the
It
whole
is. Mm-hmm.
marital rape thing, because it's extremely hard to prove in court.
Yep.
You've obviously had relations in the past. That's, you know, it's, if you haven't done that yet when you're married, shame
Right.
on you. And yet it's a real thing. It's you still have that right to say, no, it's
Right.
not the time. It's
Right.
not right. You know, you got to feel it too.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, with the female species of the human race, there is no physical signs of attraction. There's no physical signs. With men, it's very simple, and I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to get gross here, but you know
Right.
when that's ready to go. So for a woman, it's kind of like, what do you mean you're not ready? You're not showing me that you're not. Mm-hmm. So, and that had to do something. So when he took it by force
Yep.
the first time, what did that do to you psychologically?
that really set me back. And it made me feel even more like a loser because we weren't married yet. We were still dating.
Oh.
And I thought, you know what, maybe he had too much to drink. Maybe I was trying to create all kinds of excuses in my head. And what I've learned is I don't know if I was making the excuses to protect him or if I was making them to protect myself.
Because what would happen if you told yourself the truth?
Exactly.
Okay? What would happen? So at that moment in your life, what is the truth to you? At that particular moment when he took what he wanted,
Right.
what was the real truth if you look back?
That he raped me.
That he raped you. That's the real truth, and that's a hard thing psychologically for any woman to get over because the way, and what years are we talking about? Just so I'm.
That would have been very early on, so I'm thinking it would have been 95.
So 95, the marital rape situation wasn't really, it was there, but it wasn't something that was very well spoken of. Plus, you have the whole rape thing. Now, I know a lot of women who have gone through rape. It's an awful thing for them, and psychologically, they think they're damaged goods.
Yeah.
So you don't tell anybody. You don't talk
Right.
about it until later on in your life when you start to get a little bit of strength
Right.
in you. Is that something that would run through your head?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And then I thought, other times, and there were, after that, there were episodes that when he would drink, he would become a different person. And I started seeing those signs. But I kept thinking, he's got a good career. When he's sober, he's great. It's wonderful. I can change him.
Oh,
If I had a dime.
the old female. Oh God, it's the biggest mistake females make. I
Yep.
can change him,
Yeah.
and that's why you see a lot of women go after these guys who they see the potential. So there's a blind spot right there.
Yeah.
You see that potential in a person. This person could be really great if I could just change this one thing.
Yep. Yep.
But unfortunately,
Yep. The first time I ever heard my daughter say that was, yeah, I know he's not great, but I can change him. And I'm like, sweetie, if you need to change him, he's not right for you.
you got to change yourself. You got to change your outlook. You got to change your perspective.
Right.
And that's where that. So you had a child with him?
I did.
You did. I mean, so at least there's something good that came out of it.
Oh, something great that came out. of
Right.
it.
But now, was that the only crack that you saw, or were there other things?
No, there were other things. It's interesting because when you're going through something, you don't always see what's going on. And of course, hindsight, Plus, I educated myself. This was new to me. I mean, I knew that there were things like rape, and I knew that there were things like spousal abuse, but not in my world.
No, you're stronger than that.
My home life was never like that. I didn't know anybody who went through stuff like that. So that wasn't what was happening with me. What was happening with me was an anomaly, right? It wasn't what it really was. And so I kept plugging at it. And the nastier he got, the harder I would try, oddly enough, to try to make it work.
So what if you could look back? He was getting nasty, yet still doing all this bad behavior.
Yeah.
Was the drinking? So what type of drinking are we talking about? Are we talking about binge drinking? Or are we talking about the social drinking?
Well, it would start out social, and then it would get carried over. It would be one drink more, and then it was downhill.
Yeah, it's that tipping point.
To that point where, and I always could tell because his eyes would change colors.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like the Incredible Hulk.
It was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
It really, thinking back, it's scary because if I think about it, I can still see those eyes.
So why do you think he got so angry as the relationship moved on? Was he trying to make you into something that he wanted?
Part of it was I found out as we were together, he was in a very abusive home growing up.
So this was normal to him.
This was normal to him. And he got very controlling. He started isolating me. I could talk to my family when he said it was okay for me to talk to my family. I could go out with my friends, but he had to come along.
If you read a textbook about narcissists,
Oh, yeah.
this is it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember because, you know, when you first start out, you get out of college and you're on your own for the first time and you don't have a lot of money. And I was working in a position where I needed to dress nicely. And my mom, bless her, is a gifted seamstress. She would make me work clothes. And I came home one day and he had the fire going in the fireplace.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, it's August in Texas. Why is there a fire going? And then I go to change clothes and half of my wardrobe is gone. Everything my mom had made me was in that fireplace.
Because there was something in your life that you did not rely on him for. Psychologically, that's the
Yeah.
whole thing of a narcissist. They want to make you reliant on them and only them, so your world becomes them.
Right.
You know, and that's what a narcissist is. Everything has to revolve around them.
Exactly.
And so he's getting agitated. He's getting aggravated. Where did it go from there?
So I asked him what was going on, and he said, you know, you need better clothes than this. I'll take you. I'll get you what you need. And it just was step after step after step of everything you need comes from me. You don't need anything from anybody else. You don't need outside friendships. If we socialize together. And as time went on, my world was getting smaller. And then came the news they were going to transfer him. He was going to be going from Texas to Colorado. And he wanted me to go with him, and he asked me to marry him at my parents' house, midnight, New Year's Eve, going into the new year.
That's very cliche.
Very cliche. He proposed in front of everybody. I'm sitting there speechless because in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm at home with my family. I think I might just stay here because I don't like what is going to be waiting for me when I leave my family home.
So you're actually on your way out of the
I'm on
relationship.
my way out. And because I hesitated, he looked me in the eye and he said ever so softly, say yes.